Hi, I'm Wyatt Cash at Scoop News Group, and we're here with Brian Falvey, Vice President for GreenLake Cloud Services Sales for North America at Hewlett Packard Enterprises, to talk about hybrid cloud transformation in government. Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Wyatt. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
So let me start the conversation by asking, a majority of the most demanding enterprise workloads and data sets really still remain outside the cloud. What's your view of the merits of bringing cloud capabilities to your data and applications rather than your data and applications to the cloud?
Yeah, that's actually a great place to start. I think for years we've all talked about taking things to the cloud, and companies have adopted and agencies have adopted cloud first strategies, sometimes cloud first mandates. And what has happened is the true understanding of what it takes to actually move to the cloud has led a lot of folks to discover that it's a lot harder than it might seem. It gets marketed as something that you just move things to the cloud and your life will be better. But what we find out is that replatforming and refactoring applications, the cost to move data, the latency that could be inherent in the process, as well as quite simply, regulatory concerns, security concerns, and myriad other concerns, all become reasons that certain data sets and applications aren't appropriate or literally can't be ported to the cloud. And that's okay. It isn't some shot at cloud. Cloud has its merits. Cloud's a wonderful solution, and it is kind of the way of the future. But what we're finding, even in our own company with our own IT operation and then that of all of our customers, is that some things just can't go or aren't ready to go. And so what you're left with is a cloud strategy looking to take advantage of the benefits, the elasticity, and so forth that come with the experience of being in public cloud and an inability to leverage those. And that there enters the kind of on-prem or the private cloud opportunity for customers. And that's a need that we seek to fill in the market.
Well, what's an example of a mission or enterprise operation challenge government has needed to tackle where adopting cloud capabilities as a service has made or could make a difference in terms of costs, agility, security, or control?
Yeah, I think I'll give you a few examples. And again, just as a reminder, my role is covering North America, but my entire background is actually in public sector, and so I'm deeply familiar with that kind of the unique aspects of public sector that really matter here. So starting maybe in SLED and looking at a hospital, for example. I was talking to the CIO of a hospital who identified that there were certain applications in that hospital that kept basically kept people alive in beds in the hospital. And he said, I can't port these to some public cloud and deal with any type of latency risk. And so, but he was looking for that kind of agility, as well as concerns around security and HIPAA and things like that. And so going to an on-prem solution was really a strong benefit for him. Also, in federal, and SLED, the security of the supply chain becomes a more significant issue as we see cyber attacks and so forth occur these days. Understanding exactly where your data resides and on what hardware and where that was sourced from has been taken an increasing level of importance. So by adopting an on-prem or a hybrid or private cloud strategy, you really can then inspect the source of your goods and your supply chain to make sure that things are secure. So these become really strong. A few other factors are carbon footprint and kind of green initiatives. Many government data centers are aging or older, and there's a lot of initiatives around how do we reduce our carbon footprint. Consolidating in maybe a co-location using GreenLake as a private cloud or any kind of a private cloud solution will actually help improve an organization's carbon footprint, which is now increasingly a significant measurement out there.
I appreciate your sharing those examples. Next, let me ask, how could those efforts then translate into improving outcomes for citizens or employees for a government agency?
Sure. Outcome for citizens, that makes me think taxpayer. And so here's an outcome for a citizen is really preservation of capital and the reduction of waste. And what I mean by that is very often when any organization, government agency, state, local, higher ed, education institution, when they go out and make a spend on infrastructure to support their operations, especially their kind of planned growth. Everybody's IT environment is growing these days. As they go out and make a spend, very often they think down the road, but they need kind of a crystal ball. I'm going to need this much, right? Some large capacity in the future, but they might not need that today. And very often what this allows an organization to do is a few things. By taking infrastructure as a service, number one, you can alleviate that upfront capital spend, right? And so instead of deploying a ton of capital today on making this large purchase, you can spread out the payment over time. That's kind of intuitive and obvious, but what's really interesting, where it gets really creative, is you couple that with the fact that private cloud and for us at HPE GreenLake it's a relationship. And so what you can do is you only buy what you need up front. You can, or I shouldn't say buy, but basically implement in your private cloud what you need today. And part of the relationship is there's built-in expectations and plans and agility for growth. So as your needs grow or spike, only then do you add incremental infrastructure, which will ultimately increase your maybe monthly cost. But you don't have to spend the money up front and hope you were right and grow into it or not in the future. You only pay for infrastructure and workload utilization as your organization is consuming it and getting the value from it that you're hoping for. And so I think that's what gets, that's where things get really interesting for consumers and taxpayers is the fact that the typical over-provisioning, wasteful spend on IT becomes eliminated by doing a hybrid cloud or a private cloud instantiation.
That certainly makes sense. Lastly, Brian, let me ask you this. With computing at the network edge becoming increasingly important, what recommendations would you offer to agencies on, how they might capitalize on cloud capabilities as a service?
Sure. Particularly at the edge. I mean, the idea of compute being pushed out to where the data is fundamental to edge computing. But edge computing can be consumed as a service as well. And much like some of the things I've already mentioned, there's an opportunity there to basically kind of provision what you need and have the agility to, as you grow, provision more. So think of a public kind of disaster or emergency response situation where maybe you need to deploy folks. You can at that time augment your IT resources at that edge location through leveraging your private cloud relationship and grow things that way. Obviously, it also reduces in that situation any latency issues, and certainly the less data that you're passing across a wire, the fewer points of attack exist from a security standpoint. So I think that these are there are myriad kind of edge uses, but I think that the core is a core understanding is that just like a data center, IT utilization, story at the edge, as your edge needs grow, you can leverage a cloud computing model through, like a GreenLake private cloud relationship to kind of pay as you grow, if you will. A lot of times it's pay as you go, but pay as you grow seems to be the model. Not a lot of folks are seeing their storage needs decline. They're generally growing. And so again, just like the over provisioning in the data center, you don't even want to over provision at the edge. It's just be at the ready. And the word ultimately, it becomes agility. the cost savings and the fact that you're only procuring and provisioning what you need when you need it gives you the agility to grow when you need to and where you need to. So you might deploy just the right amount of infrastructure, but maybe it's in the wrong place, right? So especially with edge computing, you want to get it right, but you want agility to get it right as the needs arise. So a private cloud relationship helps facilitate that as well. So.
Oh, terrific. Well, Brian Falvey, thank you so much for taking time to join us and share some of your insights about hybrid cloud transformation in government and really some of the considerations that agencies ought to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure, and happy to talk to you anytime. So thank you very much.
Terrific.